Welcome to Tenacious Entrepreneurs, where perseverance meets purpose and every setback is just another step forward. Join us as we dive into the journeys of entrepreneurs who faced failures, embraced change, and emerged stronger than ever. Whether you're dreaming big or already on your way, this podcast is here to remind you that the end is only the beginning. Stay inspired, stay tenacious, and let's conquer the entrepreneurial world together.
Hey, it's Joseph Dupont. I want to welcome you guys back to the Tenacious Entrepreneur podcast. Today we've got amazing blessing. We've got Jonathan Gafford that's here with us. Jonathan is an entrepreneur. He's got a restaurant. He's got a construction company, but he's had a lot of ups and downs in his life. And Jonathan, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me.
Yeah,
it's an honor. It's an honor.
Great to have you. So, Jonathan, what are you doing now? Like, what do you got going on right now? What's in your life?
Right now, we just opened our seasonal business for the first day today.
Okay. Today.
Hallelujah. Some new revenues coming in the bank account. That'll work.
There you go.
And we're doing the construction business does mainly commercial maintenance for the most part, and but we do a lot of environmental removal of asbestos and mold and lead, and then reconstruction.
So how did you end up? It's sort of a variable, like two things, like your restaurant business and the construction business. Like, take me back, like when you were getting out of high school, you're like, hey, I think I'm going to own a restaurant and be a general contractor.
Nope.
What was your background? Like, take me back to like, okay, you got out of like your first job.
My first job was cutting grass.
Okay.
Hard labor, but I loved every minute of it. And I saved up enough to buy all the nice clothes and glasses and,
cool stuff.
Look good. Gap.
You were 15 or?
Oh yeah. 14, 15. And so I just knew that my dad taught me that if I wanted something, I needed to work hard for it. I needed to put my head to the grindstone and do it.
Right.
And so that's what I did. And so I did that. I worked for a grocery store. But as I progressed into, I'll say, being an adult around the 18-year mark, I started working for Michael Beverage. They distribute Budweiser and Bud Light and all that.
Yeah.
So I was working with them as a salesman and full-fledged Christian.
In Baton Rouge or?
Baton Rouge.
Okay.
Full-fledged Christian man delivering
slinging beer.
1,100 cases of Budweiser a day. And the conviction just came over me that I shouldn't be doing that, you know. And so I prayed specifically for 2 weeks that I needed something else. And a friend of mine called and said, hey, man, you happy where you're at? I said, heck no. He said, well, my father-in-law is looking for somebody to do some work. So it turned out being a good situation. Best bosses I ever had. Best pay I'd ever
doing
had.
What? Like,
I was testing high-pressure cylinders.
Okay.
It really didn't matter what it was.
Yeah.
As long as it wasn't delivering beer.
Yeah, but you went to work for, what was the name of the company?
It was Gulf Coast Hydrostatic Testers.
Okay. So you're testing equipment and
testing high pressure cylinders, the oxygen, nitrogen, those cylinders that you see at fab shops and stuff like that. And also painting big cryogenic tanks, big 60-foot cryogenic tanks out in plants and hospitals and fab shops and stuff.
So now you're 18 or you're 20 or how?
Yeah, about that was about 19 years old.
Okay. And so so you worked for them for 5 years, for forever?
Yeah, worked for them for about 3 years. And I saved my tax refund 1 year.
Okay.
Because I was making enough money, I was getting a pretty hefty little refund. And my wife and I, we had both just agreed we wanted to be in ownership.
Right.
So her friend comes to her and says, hey, Miss Phyllis is selling the snowball stand. She offered it to my friend Allie, but she can't take it because her husband's going into the military. I said, ask her if we can pursue. So we pursued. And
so wait a second, you're married now. So like we went from 18 to 19 to married.
Yeah.
So this is like 25 or 30
okay.
or?
Okay. Let me skip.
Okay.
I skipped a little bit.
Yeah.
We got married when I was at Budweiser.
Okay. So you were 18 when you got married.
I was no, I messed that up. I was 20.
Okay, you were 20. Okay.
And she was 18. And so then we get married, and we come to the agreement, this is not good for me. I go work for Gulf Coast Hydrostatic, save up the money. It was just a down payment. It was like $3,000.
Right.
And her best friend was working this snowball stand. And so we didn't want to like pull the rug out from under her and buy it.
Right.
So I was like, just ask Allie if she's okay with us making an offer. And so she was. And so we asked them to own or finance it with $3,000 down, and we would pay them in a week after they sold it to us for the first down payment, and then we'd pay them the note as we went along.
Right.
So it paid for itself. We just used that down payment to
that was your
buy some inventory.
It
was full time.
Like I said, I mean, it's seasonal. So, I mean, did you do anything else?
Didn't think about that, Joey.
Yeah.
Didn't think about that.
Okay, you're young and full of energy, man.
Silly, yeah.
Yeah, you had it all figured out.
So she had the snowball stand, and I had my job. Fine.
Okay, so you're still working.
Fine, yeah. Well, and this seemingly has happened a lot. The Lord's had to teach me this over and over again, and I'll figure it out here soon. But again, business owners made a promise. I understood differently. It was, hey, we got this big contract to go and paint all these tanks across the United States. We're going to key y'all in on the profit and get after it. Great. So, as I always have done, I do everything to the best of my ability.
Right.
I go and do it. And we come back and there's no profit. I'm like, well, there's something. There's got to be something. I just used 4 months of my life. My wife's pregnant with our first. My dog had babies while I was gone. She had to deal with the cutting of the tails as a boxer breed,
Yeah.
And so she tremendous pain. I'm like, where y'all at? And they're like, well, can't do anything. I'm like, well, I got to go then. This is my negotiation with you. It's you either come to the table with what you said or something, a parting, hey, I'm sorry, but I'll give you this money for
right.
using 4 months of your life out on the road. And so
they just basically said, okay, we're not going to pay you. And
I ended up leaving,
and
I ended up leaving with the understanding that all we had was the snowball stand that was seasonal.
Right.
So we cranked it up for a winter time. We started selling gumbo. We started selling shrimp and corn soup. Delicious. But it made Nikki sick because she was pregnant and making a roux every morning. It was making her, it was just, But anyway, we did it. We started selling these yeast rolls, and we put a little sausage link in it, like Richard's Crazy Cajun.
Yeah.
And the post office was coming every day and just gobbling it up. So we made do through that. And so
fast forward, like you got the snowball stand, you figured out how to pivot, how to make it through that.
Yep.
At what point did you go ahead and say, okay, I need to do something else?
There was never that pivot didn't happen till later.
Okay.
But
so you stayed there for another 10 years doing the snowball stand, or
no? I don't think I've done anything for 10 years. I'd have to write my timeline down and think. But my father went back to school as an adult.
Okay.
Got his degree in human resources. Hasn't been able to do anything with it in Louisiana. It's just not big enough demand for that. So he started a landscape company. Well, he started getting some bites on doing some human resource stuff. So he's like, hey, will you take over my landscape company? Yeah. So I ran the landscape company and the snowball stand for a couple of summers.
So you decided that I'll go ahead and run something that is seasonal too.
The same
in
season.
the summer, in the same season. So
there wasn't a lot of
rational thinking through that. It was just
this
like,
is I'm a doer.
Survive. Yeah, you're a
looking
doer.
at a doer.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
I do.
Yeah.
I don't think a lot. I do.
I understand.
I can take tests because I am a
You're
contractor.
the doer. Okay.
I'm the doer.
You're the doer in the room. You want it done?
That's right.
Go see Jonathan.
Come see Jonathan.
He got it done.
That's it.
So you're running this lawn care company. Your wife's running the snowball stand. You're trying to. You've got one child.
Yes.
Okay.
And the other one came right after.
Okay.
So.
All right. So now, like, okay, you at what point did you go ahead and transition out of because the lawn care business was just a short-lived thing, right?
Yeah, I could have kept it as long as I wanted, but my wife and I decided together that we were going to go help start that church in Houston. It was a church that had spawned off of our current church, and we felt led to go help. And I didn't want to manage the snowball stand from Houston.
Correct. Yeah.
I could have, but I didn't want to. So we made an agreement, her and I, that we were going to start a sweet shop in Texas. And we sold our snowball stand. Made more money in one shot than I'd ever had in my life. You know? And then we went to Houston.
How did you sell your snowball stand? You just put it up for sale sign on the front of it, or?
I had to tell like 2 people.
Okay.
And then somebody gave me $125,000 for it.
That's interesting. So, I mean, did they ask you for your books? Did they know like what you did?
This snowball stand, if you live in Baton Rouge, you know it.
Okay.
It's got 13 cars in line every single minute of every single day when the doors are open.
Okay.
So there's no reason to look at the books.
Yeah. So they knew it was making money.
Cash flows.
Yeah, it was cash flow and it was making good money. Yeah, I was just curious because people that are thinking about selling their business, I know that's a tough thing. I've walked away from businesses because I just couldn't figure out how to sell them.
Sure.
And so
this was not that. I believe. I mean, we provided some bank statements and things so that he could get a loan from his friend. But it was a friend of mine, not a close friend, but a friend, and so he trusted me and knew it made money, so it was an easy process.
So you sold the business, you moved to Houston.
We felt like everything was falling in place.
Right, everything was exactly coming along.
We sold the business quickly. I can basically give the business back to my dad. He can figure out how to make money with it, which he was coming off of one of his jobs at the same time, so he took it over and he could make his money, and we felt like everything was falling into place.
Right. So you moved to Houston.
Believe that the Lord wanted us to go.
You started doing construction work in Houston.
So if we got to backtrack just a little bit. I was also building houses at 16 years old.
Okay.
From the ground up.
All right.
So construction started then. I did that for about 2 years, and then 18 started working with Mockler.
Okay.
So I had gotten the construction experience.
Yeah, you had the background, so it was easy for you to.
And I like it.
Right.
I really like doing things right. So when you're building a house, you have to measure correctly. You have to put the right thing in the right place.
Twice and cut once.
You have to use a 2x12 on the header on this, and you have to cut the jack raft at this angle, and you have to, you got to get the inspector out there to make sure it's right, and
So you're in Houston. You decided I'm gonna go ahead and get my license.
So Houston, we were supposed to start a sweet shop. That's what we agreed to.
Right.
I told her also I'll get into property preservation.
Okay.
Which is from the banks, foreclosures, taking over foreclosures, cleaning them, mowing them. Like I told you in the car.
Yeah.
It was 113 degrees in Houston. My girls were in the truck with the air conditioning cranked and an iPad. And my wife was blowing off the grass at these locations. And I was having to wait like 30 to 45 days to get paid.
Something about having a wife that is willing to step up and help out. There's a lot of trophy wives that are just going to sit in the back corner. But we've both been blessed with some amazing women in our life. But she just stepped up and decided to jump in there and help you.
Yeah.
Wouldn't have thought of her just staying at home with the kids.
And we were very fulfilled in Houston. It was hard in that aspect, but we were fulfilled because we were helping the church get started.
Right.
We were kind of in charge of the kids ministry, and I would take the trailers with all the stuff, and we made some of the best friends ever.
Right.
in
So
Houston.
you're in Houston. You're not starting the sweet shop. You're just
No.
doing the
Yeah, there was some contention almost immediately.
Okay.
Because when getting out of a business, there's bills that stack up because you
Right.
get a lot of things on credit.
right.
We had an account with the grocery store. We had an account with our ice vendor. We had an account with our flavor vendor. And by the time I left Baton Rouge, I had paid $30,000 just to make everything right.
So now all of a sudden, $125,000 is starting to.
Yeah, and I only had
Water down.
85 of that in cash. So by the time we get to Houston, there wasn't enough money to
Start
buy.
a sweet shop. Yeah.
Yeah, to spend 40,000-50,000 on event hood just to get approved by the health board, much less anything else. So we were trying to find different ways of making money, and a friend of mine called, and I had already helped him start a few things. He was building LED light bulbs,
Right.
and I had already helped him. We would go to Houston together, meet with his engineer, talk about ideas. I just have lunch and just hang out. Well, now I was in Houston, so when he would come, he would stay at our house, and so eventually he and I said, hey, maybe I should start working with you. I could go to all these places and sell, and I'm a pretty good salesman. And did not discuss that with my wife. And that is where the tables started to turn in the wrong direction. That was one of the major mistakes I made.
So you went to work for him, helping him with
As a salesman.
as a sales guy doing the LED.
Commission only.
Okay, straight commission.
Straight commission. When LEDs were like $60 a bulb.
Yeah, that was a tough sell.
Tough sell.
Was
Very
the
tough
government giving the money for the bulbs, or was it just
in certain cases, they began to,
Uh-huh.
but the minutia is so hard that it took years to figure that out.
Yeah.
He eventually made a good run at it and ended up making a few million a year doing the lights for cities and things like that. So he did well with it until the flood came and
in 16.
yeah,
Yeah.
and killed about $4 million worth of his inventory.
Yikes.
So,
Okay. So you're there. You're working with him.
Working with him.
Your wife is not happy.
Got real mad.
Yeah, she was
Real mad.
frustrated every time something would go wrong.
Yeah,
She would be I told you
told
so.
you so.
You shouldn't have started this.
I told you so.
Yeah.
I can remember hearing so often. I told you so. I told you so. And I was like, man, you just dishonorable. Like she's saying it's me. I'm saying it's her. We're helping start the church. We're not. We're pretty good. It's just we got this thing that we're both mad at each other. 2 years of fighting about it.
Okay.
We end up moving back to Lafayette because that's where the home office for the LED company was.
Right.
She's still upset. I'm leading by dragging.
Yeah.
Okay. And so I learned that's not a good way to be. What camera am I looking at? Don't do that.
Yeah.
Which one? Don't do that.
Yeah. It'd be the ones with red lights.
Oh, don't do that. So, we moved to Lafayette, work with him there. We have to go to counseling as a
Right.
couple because it's getting worse and worse and worse. And we meet with a Christian counselor. We go through about 3 or 4 sessions, and he directs me to 1 Peter chapter 3, where it says, and I've been seeking for 2 years. Just, Lord, what is she doing? What am I doing? Please, we're going to different churches. We're helping start a church, and then we'd go to a different church on Wednesday, and we'd go to a different church on Saturday, and we'd listen to podcasts, just trying to, give me wisdom, Lord. I'm submitting myself. But
Right.
like we talked about, that we weren't asking the right questions to the Lord. And he brought me to 1 Peter chapter 3, and when it said, husbands in the same way, honor your wives as a co-heir, so that your prayers won't be hindered. I went, there it is. My prayers have been hindered.
Because you weren't asking the person that was your helpmate what you should do. And I think that scripture also talks about like treating them as
As a
co-heir.
co-heir, as an equal.
I think sometimes as men it's really hard because we have a tendency to look at our wives as a lesser vessel, but ultimately they're the ones that have to live through our decisions.
Yes.
And so if you don't go to them, I think that's the wise word that you would probably say is if you're going to make a major decision like that,
Yeah.
you need to consider the person that's going to be affected.
Yes, because it needs to be on their heart too.
Right.
It allows for that to manifest in them that they have ownership in that decision. So if it goes south, then they can course correct in their own heart
Yeah.
and in their own mind. They can learn something new.
Yeah. Digging into that, I think a little deeper. Like, so you went to counseling. You explained how that revelation actually translated to your wife. Like, did you actually come to her and say, "Hey, I made a mistake," or did you have to make tough decisions? Or,
Oh yeah, yeah. I was finally making a commission, and I hadn't made any, and I made an $8,000 commission. Some Amish guys in Ohio use LED lights because they use DC voltage,
Okay.
and they knew our integrity because we serve the same God.
Right.
They come down, we go shooting bow and arrows together, we're cooking, they're showing us some stuff, and they buy $100,000 worth of lights.
Okay.
And I make an $8,000 commission. But I knew in my spirit the only answer was to quit so that I could show my wife that I loved her and that I loved her more than I loved what I was doing.
Right. More than the business.
Because and what she tells me is she thought, hey, he's about to get real important because I was an executive in the company. We were about to have to go to China and New York and Los Angeles and Las Vegas. And she's like, how is he going to be a good dad?
Yeah.
He's not even going to be here.
Right.
So I found that out later. But she knew. She wanted me to quit. She wanted me to move on. And so I went to her and I said, once I got that revelation after I read 1 Peter, and I went to her and I said, you are never going to be able to tell me I told you so ever again. I said, because every decision we make is going to be one that's together.
Yeah, we'll make that decision.
We'll make it together. Yeah. And if it's a no from you and a yes from me, it's a no.
Yeah, I think like the key to me, like for that is if you are struggling in business and trying to hear God's voice and understand, like if you're a believer, you're trying to understand like what am I supposed to do? The first checkup that you should do. I mean, we hear a knock under the hood. We pop the hood and check the oil to see, hey, do have enough oil in it. One of the first things that we should look at is like, hey, are we in agreement?
Right.
Because how can two people walk, unless they're in agreement, they can't walk together.
Yep.
So that's the key is like recognizing that, hey, she has value and listening to what she has to say is just as important. I think sometimes we think that they're fearful or they don't have the ability to hear.
And the truth of the matter is God made us, and then he said he's a little incomplete.
Yep.
So we need to give him what he lacks.
Yeah.
And they are it. Now, it makes us upset sometimes.
Yeah.
Especially when we become ungrateful.
So fast forward that, like you move back from Houston, you're in Lafayette, you decide, okay, I'm not going to work for this company anymore because we're not in agreement. How'd you get an agreement on the next thing? What was the next thing y'all pivoted to?
So we started a business called Louisiana Festival Foods, and we started cooking at Lafayette Mardi Gras was our first location. Mm-hmm. I also owner financed a snowball trailer and started doing baseball tournaments, and it turned out to be pretty good. But another seasonal situation.
Right.
And so when it starts getting hairy, we're looking for something, to agree on.
Right.
And so we ended up, I'll tell this story and it'll solidify the whole, well, I don't know if it'll solidify, but it's a good one. So there was a festival in New Roads. All the free festivals are the best.
Right.
Because there's more people.
Right.
They show up. They don't
and
have
have
to pay
money
at
to
the
spend
door.
on food and all that. Yeah.
So when you call a festival to try to get in, they're like, "Oh, we already have that. Oh, we already have that. Oh, we already." So we went down the list. Hey, do you use snowballs? Yep, we got a snowball vendor. Okay, well, what about funnel cakes? Yeah, we got a funnel cake vendor. Okay, well, what about? And we just kept. What about? We get to sausage po' boys and bloomin' onions. Okay, and at this time, it's the snowballs have started to wane, and it's starting to cool off. So let's cook something hot. Great.
Right.
We started to owe for the snowball trailer, almost a month behind. So we knew what our bills were. Rent was almost a month behind. The snowball trailer was almost a month behind. And we worked this festival, and it's pretty good.
Right.
But this is the first time I've ever used the frying machine that I bartered to get. And so by the second day, it was all clogged up because I didn't know you had to clean it every night and get all the stuff out the bottom. And so while the festival's going, I had to dump it out and clean it out. While the oil was hot, and it was terrible.
Yeah.
For me.
You had a lot of learning curve.
We get back in the truck when it's finished, driving home, and she's counting the money. She said, "Guess how much money we made?" I said, "Profit?" She said, "Yeah." I said, $1. She said, "Yep."
Wow.
I said, "We got to do something different."
Worked all that time, did all that work.
I said, "We got to do something
It's
different."
proof that like hard work isn't necessarily going to make you wealthy.
No.
It's working smart.
Yeah. And this is the decision we made. So we're going to do it. We're doing it. You can't say I told you so.
Yep.
Because we're doing it together. And we make $1 profit after we pay for the snowball trailer and our rent. And so we made some money, but I'm just saying, it's like, then there was nothing. We got 2 little girls. I was like, I need to take a step back. We need to move back to Baton Rouge where we have favor. Because I know just about everybody I run into in Baton Rouge. There's favor here for me.
Right.
And so I started working with Breck Spencer doing commercial maintenance. And when I got that $800-900 check at the end of the week, it went in the bank account. And it was actually didn't need to leave until I paid my bills.
Right.
It was actual money I could use.
Yeah.
So that was good, but man, I just got this fire in my belly to do something better and for myself and own something and dictate where I'm going to go. So my mother's boss at the time, he asked me, he said, "Hey, come to lunch with me. I got something to run by you. Can we offer you a position to start a restoration company for us? And when it makes some money, we'll key you in on the profit, but we can pay you this much." And so it was kind of an in-between. It was like a hybrid. Okay, I'm going to be an employee, but I'm going to get some profitability here.
Right.
And they taught me, all the things I learned for water, fire, mold, all that stuff I learned with them. And for 6 years, I worked this business. And then what I've learned is, everybody's got the best intentions.
Right.
Until they just can't do it. And so 6 years later, I asked, "Hey, remember, we're doing pretty good now. We just went through the 2016 flood, and I was getting 250 calls a day to help people dry out their houses and clean them. And there's got to be some money." Well, I don't remember saying that. I said, "Okay, I understand." And what I understood was I needed to move on. I'd been lied to. and I needed to move on.
Right.
So quickly found somebody else that was willing to do the same thing, start up a restoration company. We had paperwork. This is what the commission's going to be. This is what wage went up 30%. A couple of years later, they lose one of their better clients. So I get it. I'm a business owner. I get it. I just prepare to give that speech to them about, hey, I just lost my best client that was 20% of my gross revenue. I can't afford to keep you. I understand if you have to leave.
Right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stretch this out into the next show. We're going to do another show because I really want to dig into this next show. We're going to talk about how you were able to transition into the next phase of your life, which was a pretty big deal going into the telecommunications industry. But we'll jump right back into that on this next show.
Good.
That's it for this episode of The Tenacious Entrepreneur. Thanks for tuning in and being part of this journey. Are you an entrepreneur with a tenacious story? We want to hear from you. Visit our website, tenaciousentrepreneur.com, and click on the Tell My Story link. If you got something valuable from today's episode, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with a fellow entrepreneur. Keep pushing forward, and remember, the end is only the beginning. A new episode drops every Wednesday at 7:14 a.m. Until then, remember to stay humble, stay focused, and be tenacious.